Today let us talk about cyclotron. Cyclotron is a device which is used to accelerate the charged particles or ions to very high energy. Now the principle: frequency of revolution of the charged particle in magnetic field is independent of energy. So frequency is not depending on the energy. This concept is utilized here to design cyclotron. How does it not dependent? That we shall further study whenever the topic proceed. Or we can say frequency of the revolution of the charged particle does not depend on speed of charged particle and radius of the charged particle. Okay. Or we can say the frequency of revolution of the charged particle does not depend on the speed of charged particle and radius of the circular path of this charged particle. So frequency is independent of, we can say, speed of the charged particle and radius of the circular path. Okay, this fact is utilized here to design the cyclotron. When a charged particle of charge q enters the magnetic field B with velocity v, now see, the charged particle is having charge q. It is entering in the magnetic field of magnitude b and direction, then it is vector b with velocity v. Now velocity v is perpendicular to the magnetic field. So the charged particle is not entering at any angle. It is entering at a angle of 90 degree with magnetic field B. Then magnetic force. Now as you know that magnetic force is given by the formula F is equal to Q V cross B. This we have studied, V cross B. Now see, this force is a vector quantity. Now V and B are perpendicular, so what will happen? F is equal to Q V B sin 90, and sin 90 is 1. So the magnetic force which is exerted on this charged particle is of value QVB, and this magnetic force provides required centripetal force, so we can write mv square upon r is equal to qvb, where m is a mass of charged particle, v is the linear speed of the charged particle, r is the radius of the circular path which is subscribed or which is produced by this motion of the charged particle in magnetic field when the charged particle is moving perpendicularly to the magnetic field. Okay, so centripetal force provides, this is centripetal force which is provided by this magnetic force. Whenever a charged particle is moving on a circular path, then it must need the centripetal force. Okay, next. So radius can be made as a subject of formula. This can be done easily by you. So R is equal to, you can have mv upon qb. Okay, this is our equation number 1. Okay, so try to understand very easily. You can make R as a subject of formula, so there is no difficulty. Okay, v can be cancelled out here and R is made subject of formula, so R goes the other side, so it becomes mv upon qb. Now as you know that this linear velocity is equal to r into omega. Okay, what is omega? It is angular frequency or angular velocity, we can say, which is given by 2 pi nu. 2 pi nu. Nu is the frequency. So we can write V is equal to 2 pi nu into R. Okay, V is equal to R omega. We have studied in our 11th standard. Omega is 2 pi nu. Nu is frequency. Omega is angular frequency. Okay, so instead of omega you can write 2 pi nu. Okay, so the equation becomes 2 pi nu R. So now you have this value of V to be 2 pi nu r, and this 2 pi nu r is now substituted here instead of this V. So instead of this V you can write 2 pi nu r. Okay. So next we go further. So instead of that V, we have written 2 pi nu r upon qb. So now nu is made as a subject of formula. Okay. So you can make nu as a subject of formula here. So here this nu can be obtained as qb upon 2 pi m. This is very easily done. R can be cancelled out and you make this nu as a subject of formula. So you will have qb upon 2 pi m. So now try to understand this equation of nu. Nu is frequency which is independent of the speed of charged particle, that is v. Okay. So that was explained earlier. Okay, that the frequency is independent of charged particle. See here we talked this. Frequency of revolution of charged particle does not depend on the speed of charged particle, and it is also independent of radius of circular path. So you can see that there is no term which contains speed here in this equation, and this equation also does not contain radius. Radius and v both are absent in this equation. So we can say this frequency is independent of this radius as well as the linear speed. Okay. Now we move further. This frequency does not depend on speed of charged particle. Okay. Momentum and kinetic energy, we can say momentum and kinetic energy, because here there is no term which contains mass into velocity, so it is also independent of momentum as well as kinetic energy. This fact is very important for the designing of cyclotron. So cyclotron is designed on this fact that the frequency is independent of momentum, it is also independent of the speed of charged particle and kinetic energy. Okay. So we move further. Construction is, first of all we have to understand cyclotron is made up of two semicircular disc like metal container, that is D1 and D2. D1 and D2 are the two discs which are used here. D-shaped discs are there. Okay, semicircular discs are there which are called the Ds. D shape means it is said to be Ds as they look like the letter D. Okay. These D-shaped boxes are placed in an evacuated chamber having strong magnetic field. So this D-shaped boxes or the chambers are placed in a evacuated hole environment. So the environment is not having any air, evacuated chamber is made. Okay. Now the particle which is to be accelerated is released at the center P as shown in this figure. Now you can see this. See, D-shaped boxes are there. Okay. Here you can see these are the two D's. These are the D-shaped boxes. Okay. And there is a slight gap between them, and this is the point P from where the charged particle is introduced. The whole system of two D's are kept in the evacuated chamber, and you can see the dots are made. Here dots are showing the magnetic field which is coming out of the plane of this screen. Okay. And the charged particle is introduced here at this particular point. So when this charged particle moves in this particular direction or in this particular direction, any direction, either towards right or towards left, the magnetic field which is coming out of the plane of the screen will be always perpendicular, and this velocity vector and magnetic field will be perpendicular to each other. So this will produce the circular motion. Try to understand. Okay, so it is arrangement, its arrangement is such that velocity vector becomes perpendicular to the magnetic field. Okay, so the whole arrangement is shown here. Okay, there is a magnetic field out of the paper, means out of the screen. Okay, there are two D-shaped boxes, that is D1 and D2. Okay, the charge particle is introduced here at point P, and then after making many such revolutions, okay, this charge particle is then taken out of this chamber, that is known as exit port. Exit port is the place from where this accelerated charge particle is taken out. There is a deflection plate. Whenever the charge particle is properly accelerated up to maximum its possibility, then it is taken out from this exit port, okay, by producing another magnetic field by this deflection plate, okay, so that it comes out of this exit port. Okay, now this is the whole thing. Accelerated charge particle is taken out from the exit port or a slit by using charged deflection plate. There is a charged deflection plate, or here some charge is then produced whenever it is properly accelerated, then this will come out of this. Okay, now again this figure I am keeping for you on this screen also. Now how does it work? In the gap between two D's, a positive ion enters at point P. Now try to understand, we have taken positive ion. Okay, positively charged particle also you can say. Now when this is the point of introduction, this is the point from where the charged particle is introduced. Now this charge particle is introduced from this point P, and these two D-shaped container are joined with this oscillator, that is AC source in general we can say. So alternately this 2D-shaped container will become positive and negative. Alternately they will become positive and negative. If you consider that at a particular moment of time, say the D1 is say negative and D2 is positive, then after a fixed time interval, say T by 2, after say periodic time, as you know it is capital T. So after T by 2 time interval, okay, the negative will become positive and positive will be negative. So the alternately these two D-shaped container are becoming negative and positive after a regular interval of time, that is T by 2. If you take total time interval to become again negative, say first this D1 was negative, then positive, then what will happen after T by 2? This becomes positive, then becomes negative, and after a time T, again this becomes negative and this becomes positive. So whole cycle is over. So negative to negative it takes time, that is capital T. Okay, so after time T by 2, this negative becomes positive, then positive again becomes negative. This process goes on. So this is the working of oscillator. Oscillator helps in making the D to be positive and negative after a regular interval of time. Okay, so in the gap between two D's, okay, a positive ion enters at point P. At this moment let us consider that D1 is negative and D2 is positive. This is our assumption. Anyone can be negative or positive, but here first of all we take the D1 to be negative. Okay, therefore it will be accelerated towards D1. Now you can understand that the D1 is negative and we have taken which particle? Positive charge particle. So this positively charged particle which is introduced here at point P will be accelerated towards D1. So it will go towards D1. Say this way. It goes this way. Okay, again I am explaining, trying to show. Rather, from here the charge particle is introduced. Now let us consider that d1 is, say, negative. So what will happen? This will be accelerated towards d1. Now the plate d1, or rather d, which is made up of the metal, inside the metal, what will happen? This will produce the accelerated motion. Rather, acceleration is seen within this gap only. Try to understand. In the gap only the acceleration is experienced by the charge particle. So whenever you try to see this way, say this is a D shaped container and this is, say, D1. Okay. Now here the charge particle, that is positively charged particle, is introduced and this becomes negative. So during this much motion, the positively charged particle will be attracted by this negatively charged d1, and this will produce acceleration, and then it will move within the d. Within the d it will move. Try to understand. And it will produce the circular motion because the magnetic field and velocity both are perpendicular to each other. Magnetic field is coming out of the plane of the screen and velocity is in the direction towards left. Okay, so both are perpendicular and therefore it will produce the circular motion. Now it will come here. Okay, now what will happen when it is here and it is coming out? This d2, see, this d2 will become now negative. So again this much it will travel with an accelerated motion, then with constant velocity it will move within the d2 and it will move on a circular path. Again it will come here, and when it comes here then this becomes the negative, d1 becomes negative, then again it will be accelerated. So speed is more, then the radius will be more. This way the whole process goes on, and whenever it comes here at a exit port, maximum kinetic energy is obtained or maximum speed is obtained, that of this charge particle, and when it is at exit port the deflection plate will take out this accelerated charge particle out of the D's. Okay, so this is the whole working. So therefore it will be accelerated towards D1. Inside D1 electric field does not exist as it is made up of metal. This is the main point. There is no electric field inside the D. Why? Because this is made up of metal, and in the metal the electric field is zero. Okay, inside the metal hollow cylinder or hollow region, whatever hollow object which is made up of metal, electric field inside is zero. There is only magnetic field inside this D shape. Okay, so in absence of electric field, the magnetic field is now producing the circular motion of this charge particle within the D shape, and it will inscribe the circular path, then it comes here, then again. So continuously this kind of spiral path is produced, and you will have the acceleration of this charge particle. Due to magnetic field inside D1, the charge particle begins to perform the circular motion. Because of magnetic field it will produce the circular motion. Okay, now after completion of circular motion on semicircular path, when this particle comes out of D1, D2 becomes negative and D1 becomes positive. So this is very easy to understand. Alternately these plates are changing their polarity. Okay, first the D1 was negative, then D2 becomes negative. So this charge particle is continuously moving on a circular path from one D-shaped container to the other D-shaped container. Okay, and whenever it is having, or we can say this particle is accelerated towards D2 and moves in a circular path inside D2 after completion of circular motion on semicircular path, when it comes out at that moment d1 becomes negative and d2 becomes positive. So it will be accelerated towards d1. This process continues and kinetic energy increases as it is in accelerated motion. Its speed continuously increases. Simultaneously, the radius of the circular path also increases. Okay, as speed increases, radius increases. Now try to understand how this happens. You can see that thing that we have understood here. Okay, where did we do it? Okay, it was here. See, you can understand from this equation. When the speed increases, if v increases, then radius of the circular path also increases, and that is why there is a spiral motion in which continuously the radius increases. Okay, so the speed of the charge particle becomes maximum when it is very close to the surface of the d. Okay, so what will happen now? What will you do? This is the charge particle which is already accelerated. Okay, so now you have to take out this. Okay, so the frequency of this AC source, which is denoted as an oscillator, okay, is frequency of AC source, that is oscillator, which is denoted by this nu A, and cyclotron frequency, both are same. That is the cyclotron frequency which we have calculated, nu, the formula which we have already derived, and the frequency of the oscillator, both are matching. Then what will happen when the charge particle is coming out of the d? At that time the other becomes negative. Then from that another d, when it is coming out, the first becomes negative. So there must be a matching. Whenever the charge particle is coming out of the d-shaped box, the other should become the negative, as you want to accelerate the positive charge particle. And if you have negative charge particle, then the other should become positive. This is very easy to understand. Okay, so if frequency of AC source, that is nu A, and cyclotron frequency are same, then resonance occurs. Okay, and you can have the coordination. Whenever the charge particle is coming out of the d, the other becomes either negative or positive. The other d becomes either negative or positive, and the charge particle is accelerated within that particular gap which I explained. Okay, now for maximum kinetic energy, when the charge particle is at the edge of the d having maximum speed, it has completed its revolution. Many revolutions they have completed. Try to understand this way. The charge particle was introduced, then it was revolving, and then many circular motion, say it is here somewhere, and its maximum speed is attained, or it is, say, accelerated totally. Okay, so now it is having maximum speed when it is at the edge of the d. Okay, now what should be done? Then centripetal force at that time is provided by the magnetic force, and centripetal force, as you know, mv square upon r, where r is the radius of the circular path at the d. That is equal to qvb. Okay, so we can say v is equal to qbr upon m. This is very easy to understand. V can be cancelled out. Okay, and at this particular point all these calculations are done when it is totally accelerated and its speed is v here somewhere when it is coming out, or when we want to take it out. Okay, so v is cancelled out. Okay, and then this speed is made the subject of formula. So v is equal to qbr upon m. That can be easily understood. Thus kinetic energy, if you want to find, very easy, 1/2 mv square. Just you have to place this value of velocity here, which we got in mv square. Instead of v, we write qbr upon n. Squaring them, what will you get? You will get kinetic energy to be q square b square r square. Here 1 m will be cancelled out. Q square b square r square upon 2m. Okay. Now uses of accelerated charge particles. Accelerated charge particles are bombarded on nuclei to study the nuclear reaction. This is the first use. It is also used to implant ions into solids. If you want to implant the ions in the solids, then these accelerated charge particles are used, and to modify the properties or even synthesize the new material. You can make new material, okay, by bombarding these accelerated charge particles on the metal. Okay, it is used in hospitals to produce radioactive substances which can be used in diagnosis and treatment. Okay, thank you very much. Try to watch this video 2-3 times. Okay, and then you go through your textbook, okay, and write all these things in your notebook so that you can understand it properly. Thank you very much.